Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It is fantastic to have you here as ever because we are working on a Damascus ZWEIHANDER. I still don't know exactly how to pronounce it. Plenty of folks are letting us know that we're pronouncing it wrong. The trouble is that when you read text, it's very difficult to know how to actually pronounce something because I'm speaking it like I'm reading it, if that makes any sense at all. This ZWEIHANDER is huge. It's a gigantic piece of steel. We've got some beautiful Damascus pattern running up it. I'm thrilled to have you here for another episode. What I'm going to get cracking on is not the blade, but I want to finish what I have started, which is to work on the guard. And so we're going to make some more progress there and file on the balls. This is what the guard ends need to look like. At the end of the last episode, we didn't have a ton of success in the grinding room, so we're now going to move on to some filing. Well, I am extremely skeptical. Do not think this is going to work, but I'm going to try grinding the ball. We'll see what happens. Yeah, not going to work. Around the country. Look at that, keep things nice and even over here.
Alrighty, it is the next morning.
And so we are getting back to work on the guard. I'm very pleased with how it's going, but into the morning, and we have ourselves a little morning routine that we like to follow, which is called doing 3S time. The 3 S's stand for sweep, sort, and standardize. It comes out of some lean manufacturing, lean management kind of ideas and things and such forth. And the general idea is to help keep the workshop clean and also keep improving things to save time. We spend kind of 15-20 minutes every morning tidying things and then making improvements. Simple things
Like sorting personal protective equipment on the wall in right places. Putting lenses and batteries in foam. Organizing tool drawers in foam.
all of those types of things. And what I want to work on this morning, and I want to bring you along with this 3S time today, I want to work on the forging area, because I just feel like it is just not very conducive to efficient use of space and efficient use of motion. I think I'm wasting a lot of motion every time I'm forging. And I'm definitely wasting a lot of effort by not having planned this out properly, because I still
Don't have any of my tools bolted down.
which is a sincere embarrassment. So the most common thing that I do in here is I go to the power hammer. Right now what I've got to do that is I've got to go from the forge all the way around to here. I'm going to move the forge this way so that it's more like this. Alrighty, took a little more than the 15 or 20 minutes, but
I am thrilled with this improvement. I brought the press over to here because we're often using the press, and this is going to save so many footsteps every time we do use it. What I've also gone ahead and done is I moved the anvil to a slightly more appropriate angle so you can kind of get to it nice and easy. But the highlight definitely is bringing that forge closer to the power hammer. So coming to the power hammer is just going to be a case of coming out and pivoting off of this right foot. You know, that's what it wants to be. It just wants to be one pivot into the most used tool.
and so I'm excited to see how this works. Right, so we're obviously not here for making workshop improvements today. We're here working on our ZWEIHANDER, and so back at it. At the end of yesterday, as you saw,
We had this thing pretty close.
now that it's cold, I'm just gonna cold hammer it, cold bend it into the exact shape, and then we're gonna be moving on. Alrighty folks, as you can see, we have ourselves a bent thing, and it's looking very much like the actual drawing. I will note, and just a little point out one of my failures here, it is about a total of an inch longer than it's meant to be. Each end sticks out about half an inch more than it should. Is that perfect? That is absolutely not perfect. Is it good to have it not match the drawing? No, it's not. But there is sadly always a point where you got to accept what you got, take your wins. And right now, I'm counting this as, you know, a couple notches above a failure, which is every bit of a win as it could be, considering the 4 failures we had before this. And so we're gonna move on with the next steps, which are to affix some sort of loops around it. I need to make some parts that we can then somehow braze or solder on to the edges here. So, I'm gonna take some, maybe we go 3/8. And take some 3/8 round hot rolled steel, this bad boy right here. I'm gonna cut some kind of 3-foot handling lengths on the shear. Oh goodness. Whew. This shear is not very powerful. Oh, woo! I'm gonna put these bad boys in the fire. I'm gonna grab some wire to kind of work out how much material we need. Check this out. One of my absolute favorite EDC items is this Leatherman Raptor. We're now selling them too, which is unbelievably exciting because they got a ring cutter, which is an amazing wire cutter on the back. You should check them out. They're on the website now. We've only got a few of them. These bad boys get used every single day. So the thing with forging is you're displacing material, which means though I know the final length, I can't just cut a 7-inch piece of steel and then forge it because it's going to end up growing. The trouble is, we're trying to make a shape that's a little funky, and about the fastest way that I can think to work out how much material we actually need is to just start trying, start roughing it in.
So this is the 7 inches we need to end up with. I'm gonna go ahead and take 4.5 inches, or 110 millimeters, and see if when we forge this, we get close to the final dimensions. And I'm gonna use the edge of my anvil to make a mark, which is gonna be where we're gonna cut the final piece, knowing that everything that we used was just 4.5 inches. Amazingly, we're like right on the length with the first go. I'm now gonna try and bend this into one of these oval loops to see how it looks. I'm gonna use a wooden mallet so as not to mar the steel as badly as a steel hammer would. Alrighty folks, so here's what we got. Looks a little funky here. The idea was these would be incorporated into it, but after looking at it and realizing there's no way that's gonna look good, if I just cut this here, it's gonna be perfect. It's gonna look just like the drawing. It's gonna be right on point. Can't use this one though, because when I measured the length that I wanted, I included these little feet here, so it's way too small. So I'm gonna make another 2 of these, hopefully to the right size. We'll cut off these end pieces on them and then work out how we're gonna join them on to our guard. Alrighty, we got 2 of them forged. I'm thrilled with how they look. That makes me super happy. I felt in a good bit of a forging slump lately. You know, back in the day, I used to do so much hand hammering and hand forging all the time, and I got good, and then I don't do any anymore, and so I really feel like all of my skills in this arena are dwindling as time gets put into other areas. So it's nice to forge something, and actually kind of, these pieces are looking clean, and they're the same, which is a shock. So I'm excited. I'm pleased that we're able to have these 2 rings done, ready for the next step, which is working out how we affix these onto our guard. This is where it gets tricky, because this is a sword. It needs to be ready for all sorts of combat that can be thrown at it. So, whichever way that I choose to affix these needs to be awfully strong, because failure is an inevitable part of everything that we do. I am not going to try it with this and this. We're gonna use these test pieces here. So, what you've seen me try to do is you've seen me try to take some flux. This is jeweler's flux, slightly different to the flux that we use. I don't know what makes it different. And I painted that flux on the surfaces. And then went ahead and took some medium silver solder sheet and I made some little angle pieces. I then put that onto the joint areas and then realized that we're all out of oxygen. You remember a few episodes Will ran out of oxygen? Well, amazingly, oxygen doesn't just fill itself back up. I then used this thing, which is not as hot as that, which wasn't able to heat it up as well as we wanted. And so I'm pretty confident that we have only just failed. I definitely only heated up this one side here, so it's a miracle that anything even happened, but it looks like it stayed on, at least. That's actually on there pretty
pretty well for the very little that actually bonded. So we're gonna have to wait a while for some oxygen to arrive. But while I've been doing unproductive things, Callan here has been doing productive things. What are you working on, Callan?
We've got all of these cast bronze keychains, and we're buffing them up because they came pretty nasty, but they look beautiful now.
That's right. So you were in the grinding room, you cleaned up the faces with what?
It was a fine surface conditioning belt from AlecSteele.com.
Oh, very nice. Those faces then end up looking like this, which is very nice in its own right. And then after a couple trips on the buffing wheel, they then look very beautiful and very polished. We've got some more on the website, be sure to check those out. After he's done buffing them, we polish off all the buffing compound in the ultrasonic. That lifts off all that greasy buffing compound. And so yeah, I don't know quite what to say, other than I wish we had oxygen. And short of TIG welding on those loops, there's no progress that we can make until we are reoxygenated. So, in our anaerobic state, we will indeed need to move on to something else, so we can make some progress as we go. So I think it's time to look at the blade again. So one of the things I was concerned about with this sword is how we have that pattern laid out and what the sword needs to look like at the end. The sword needs to have these cutouts in it to give the blade its serrated edge look. I was really concerned that it might look terrible to have these cutouts when those cutouts were messing with this pattern, and so something that I debated doing was forging down the edges to widen this out. But, dare I say, now that I've actually drawn the serrations onto it, I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it's too bad at all. I've taken a pair of dividers here and put a scribe line down it to see how the pattern interacts with those cutouts. And it really doesn't look awful. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm skeptical to say it because this is going to be the most difficult and potentially... This is going to be the most difficult part because I'm pretty sure the thing that we have to do right now is harden it and temper it. Please, please, please. Please, 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 yes! Check this out. That oven is exactly as long as it needs to be. This is our Paragon 50-inch tall vertical modular heat treating oven. They're a sponsor of the show. And thank goodness that thing is as big as it is, because we're gonna need it. First things first, we need a way to hang it. The trouble is there's nothing to hang it from. I'm gonna weld on a little hook. Well, look at that. That only went and worked. We'll then put this lid over top of it. We don't have a quench tank tall enough for this thing. Where's our quench tank? We need at least 52 inches.
And that is 47.5.
Looks like we need to make another quench tank as well. Let's get the heat treating oven powered on up so we can at least do a normalizing cycle. As you can see, this Paragon heat treating oven is controlled with a Sentinel Smart Touch touchscreen control, which is pretty awesome. Because I want to go ahead and set a rate of, oh, I don't know, 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. And I want it to reach 1,550 degrees Fahrenheit. I want it to hold there for about kind of 15 minutes. And just like that, the heat treating oven is on. Just like that. Couldn't be easier. And so we're incredibly grateful that not only Paragon, who makes this, is a sponsor of the show and helps support all of this and is sponsoring this video, but we're also grateful that this technology exists. Because I tried hardening stuff and heat treating stuff without the right equipment, and it is just a significant amount of stress and hard work to make it work. And is the quality of this blade as good as the quality of this blade will be inside here, hardened to exact temperatures? No. This is going to eat this thing for breakfast because it's going to have the greatest degree of consistency we could possibly get. This oven, just like our KM Pro ovens, which are now behind you over there, just like those, it has 3 zones. So there's 3 thermocouples, all being independently controlled in a feedback loop to make sure the temperature stays as you want it to stay. So instead of overheating the top as one easily would in a vertical oven, as hot fluids tend to rise, instead of overheating the top and having a cool tip, it's generally going to end up compensating and putting more power to the bottom than the top. Which means that this oven is going to be holding temperature extremely accurately, just like these bad boys over here. This is the KM24 Pro, which also features 3-zone
temperature control. But what's unique about this particular system is you can actually unbuckle each one of these units and make this oven just this tall, or stack 3 on top, and you end up with a beast just like this. A big, big, big thank you is owed to Paragon for sponsoring the show and this episode, and I really, really want you guys to make sure that you invest in the quality that Paragon offers with their made in the USA ovens by making sure your next oven is one of theirs. I cannot wait to see you on the next episode, because on the next one, we are going to be hardening this, and this, as you rightly know, which is always the most precarious part of any build. Thank you guys so much. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.